Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Raymond Hall Show. My name is Raymond Hall, and we are welcoming our guest today. Our guest is Miss Helen Cruz of the Los Angeles County Emergency Preparedness Office. She has a very responsible position with that office, and we're going to be talking with her very soon. Welcome, and we are so excited to have you here on the Raymond Hall Show to talk to us about emergency preparedness.
Thank you so much. But the last name is Chavez.
That was the mistake that it was. Okay, so here I am going off early in the show. So Helen Chavez, we are so happy to have you here today to talk about the emergency preparedness. Our broadcast is both local and global, and for those of you who don't know, you just hear about picturesque California. We've been burning up here a little, both literally and physically. The place has been burning, and we're just hot all over the place.
It has been very hot.
Yeah. Now, before we get started, do you all have more to do as an agency when things happen like the heat and everything, or is from your perspective, is it about the same and just awareness in the community, or do you all gear up when we have issues going on?
We definitely do gear up in terms of readiness, being aware, monitoring, having our intelligence systems be ready to react if needed. Okay. When it comes to heat, definitely that is going to be LA County Fire and other fire departments. They are the main responders. They have state-of-the-art personnel and equipment that are looking at the weather patterns, anticipating and staffing up.
Okay.
But where I work, which is kind of unique, so we're the Office of Emergency Management.
Okay.
I explain it to my friends and family like this. So federally, people know FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Exactly.
Right? They're in charge. They come in. They're going to provide support and coordination when something really big and bad happens, a big, large-scale disaster emergency. Mm-hmm. I'm the equivalent of that, but at the county level for Los Angeles County.
Okay.
So we're here to help coordinate.
That's a good way to put it in perspective.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay. And Helen has quite a responsibility in the community. She does education and public information, and strategically to increase residents' awareness and preparation for disasters and local emergencies. Her initiatives include developing partnerships that promote community Resilience.
Yes.
Okay. Resilience, and designing and delivering education workshops, providing technical assistance, and supporting community-driven disaster planning. So kind of talk to us about some of that.
Okay.
What does the resilience mean? What does that do?
I think of the term resilience as basically this, how prepared are you to be able to respond and take care of yourself and your loved ones during an emergency, and how prepared are you to be able to bounce back to, quote unquote, what is normal for you and for your family and loved ones.
Now, years ago, people used to say, okay, get you some good shoes, dry socks, flashlight, and screwdriver, and you'll be okay. That is not the case anymore, I would take it. You need a little bit more than that.
That's right. We've gotten a little bit more sophisticated, but it really comes down to 4 steps.
Okay.
And the beauty here is that it doesn't matter what the particular disaster emergency situation is. These 4 steps really apply across the board, whether it's an earthquake, it's a fire, it's some sort of terrible, pandemic illness or disease. These 4 steps are what will help you and your family and loved ones. And the first step is to have a plan.
Okay.
Have a plan.
Okay.
Know who are you going to communicate with? Because the first thing that is very human nature to us is to ask the question, am I okay? Are my loved ones okay?
Okay.
Where are my loved ones?
Okay.
So the first step is really have a communication plan. Figure out how you're going to get in touch with your loved ones to see that everyone's okay. we recommend that you have a central point of contact, because if you're calling 25 different people, right, to check in with everyone, that's going to tie up the phone lines. And what we saw in situations like, for example, these terrible hurricanes in Texas and in Florida and in Puerto Rico, is that, phone lines went down. Data systems that carry our cell phone services went down. So let's help out. And if you have a communication plan and you have one point person per family or per loved ones, right? Now you have more coordination and you can free up some of the phone lines and save yourself some time.
So these are things you need to do before that emergency situation hits.
Yes. Being ready, having a plan, a communication plan. Also having a plan about where are you going to reunify with your loved ones. If your house is not available, or if, you're at your home and let's say your elderly parent is at the senior center or visiting a friend and can't return to home. So where are we all going to meet up, right? Your child's at school. Where is going to be that central point if in case, your home is not available? So that's what having a plan is all about. It's about having a conversation with your loved ones about what are we going to do? How are we going to keep in touch?
Now, Helen bought some material with her, and I would advise everyone, if you're a part of a community organization or you just want to have that information yourself in your home, I would advise you to get the information. It's quite impressive. County of Los Angeles Emergency Survival Guide. So now we're just talking about step one, but I just want to intervene here a couple of times that she brought some information with her, and that whether you're part of a social organization, your church, just whatever organization that you're a part of, if you just want it in your house, make sure that you contact her office to get this information. Okay, so now we're talking about Plan 1, and we're talking about the book. So first thing, how can they get this information? We're going to do this several times.
So we have the County of Los Angeles, the Emergency Survival Guide. We call it the ESG for short.
Okay.
Free. It's available in 15 different languages.
Oh, wow.
Including Spanish, Russian, Arabic, Hindi, a number of the different Asian languages, including Mandarin, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
All available if you go to lacounty.gov/emergency.
Okay,
that
so they
is
can
a
go
good
to the
page.
website.
Yes, go to the webpage.
Okay.
And if you don't want an electronic copy and you're a little bit more old school and you prefer to have a printed copy like myself.
Sounds like me.
Yes, and like me too. Okay. You can always dial 211. That's LA County's informational line, and you can ask that a free copy be mailed to you in the language that you'd prefer.
Okay. So now remember, if you're a part of church, social organization, if you have children in school, inquire to see where you frequent, where you go, if they have this information. And if they don't, you take the lead, order the information, or tell them how they can order the information. Okay, so now let's move on to finish. Are we still in planning, or are we moving on to 2?
Well, that was the first step. It's have a plan.
Okay.
The second step, and all this again is contained in this emergency survival guide. The second step is really about still preparedness. It's about having supplies in place. That's sort of what you were referring to, I think, earlier about what we've been told about having a kit, making sure, and it can be something simple. I have personally just an old backpack. I no longer use it. I have one by the foot of the bed.
Right.
I have another one in the car because you never know where you might be.
Where you're going to be. That's correct.
You can build it using simple materials and items. Page 36 of this guidebook tells you what to have. Things like, for example, a flashlight. Having batteries, not necessarily in the flashlight because they corrode and they get
bad.
They don't work, right?
They go bad, right.
Having a battery-operated radio, that's very important.
Yes.
Because you never know. You may be without electricity. We saw that definitely happen in Puerto Rico. There's still like 2/3 of the folks over there don't have access to power.
Anything. Right.
Even a backup battery or charger for your phone. So many of us are dependent on our cell phones. And as a matter of fact, some of the most amazing stories that I saw about the earthquake, for example, that hit Mexico, were about how people were using texting technology to tell their loved ones that they were trapped, that they were that they needed help.
Right.
They were posting on social media.
Right.
So the cell phone has really taken on it's a new survival tool in a way.
Yes.
And having an extra backup.
Using the flashlight part.
Yes, the flashlight to show where you're at. Exactly. And of course, the number one thing on this list is, what do you think? We can't survive it. We can't survive for more than 3 days without this particular thing. Exactly. Water. So that's the number one item. And when I give my talks and I talk to different community groups, church groups, faith-based groups, sometimes I have people say, well, Helen, what if I live in a small apartment or, I have a small home, I can't really collect a lot of water? Because the recommendation is that you have at least 1 gallon per person in the household per day for at least a week. Okay. So if one person, you'd have to have 7 gallons, right, to handle a week.
Now, typically, how long should we prepare?
About a week.
For about a week.
At least 7 days. At least 7 to 10 days. Back in the day, we used to say 3 days.
Right.
But really, it's more so about 10 days. Because in a big disaster or large-scale emergency, that's part of the definition of what's a disaster. It's when the needs outweigh the resources. So are you going to have to be waiting for help? Absolutely.
Yes.
If that's the situation.
Remember that now, because that's important. The needs outweigh the resources.
That's right.
And that's a way that we can kind of prepare ourselves. I know different situations call for different things, because at one time I had the little drop ladder that went over the balcony.
That's right.
So if Northridge taught us a lot. I was living in New Hall at the time, and that was like one of the most important things.
Yes.
Water, ladder, so you can climb out of this building.
That's right.
Okay.
And I wanted to make one other point about supplies, about medications.
Oh, yes,
so
definitely.
Especially older populations, it's something, the fact is something like 70% of older Americans have at least one chronic illness.
Yes.
So you got to think and plan for how are you going to attend to that chronic illness before a disaster. I'll give you an example. One of my loved ones, diabetic, type 1.
Yes.
Insulin dependent.
Yes.
So we have an extra set of insulin ready to go. We have the cold packs to keep the medicine cold, and we know that is readily available, and we can grab it out of the fridge when needed, or an extra pair of glasses sometimes, if you need that.
Well, you definitely have something there. Most of the people that know me know it. I had a heart transplant 17 years ago.
Oh, I see.
So when you see my backpack, you see those meds and water and everything else. We're talking with Helen Cruz. She's with the emergency.
Chavez.
Why do I keep saying Cruz? Chavez. We're here with Helen Chavez. Somebody must be talking about me. I'm going on a cruise soon.
I
Maybe
think so.
That's what it is.
I think that might be it.
Okay, let it be somewhere nice and anyway. We're talking here with Helen, and she's with the Office of the Emergency Preparedness. She's out in the community. She's really being a blessing to us today, because she's here with us here at the Raymond Hall Show. And we're talking because we want to get really to seniors and those persons that are not really as active as they used to be, veterans, because I'm a Vietnam vet, and I know sometimes vets get a little sedentary. So we want to talk about people who may or may not get out as often.
Okay.
And I promise that I will not say cruise anymore. Okay. But we want to talk about them. When it comes to a plan, we know that neighbors kind of look out for neighbors. But from your position, what do you say about those people that have kind of sedentary lives?
I would say service and looking out for neighbors are two really important themes.
Okay.
We're a community, and we know that older individuals in our communities, that they are disproportionately affected by disasters. I'll give you an amazing statistic that to me just was alarming. Before Hurricane Rita and Katrina in 2005 in New Orleans, for example.
Right.
The population there that was older than 60 years old was about 15%, but they made up 65%, or actually 70% of those that died. That's how disproportionate the older Americans were affected and victimized and ultimately paid a price with their life for a disaster, which is why we really have to, tend to our neighbors. If you know that you have an elderly person that lives next to you after a disaster, let's say an earthquake hits, please check in on them.
Yes.
It's part of being a community.
Yes.
And have a conversation, as a matter of fact, before with them. Identify what are their special needs, what kind of accommodations do they need, so that you're able to support them
Right.
Or if there's first responders like fire or law enforcement are coming, that you can communicate to them on the person's behalf if they're not able to, how to best help them.
Right. In speaking about Katrina, one of the things that will be forever with me is that picture of that elderly person in that wheelchair. And they put that sign on them that said, "This was my mom, bury her," or something like that.
That's right.
And that was just hard to move from because so many things rushed at us. We're here in supposedly the richest country in the nation. We've got all of these resources. And then something happens that just kind of put it in perspective that we really do, everybody need each other.
That's right.
Yeah, we need each other because what really happened there was it was so monumental that what really worked was just the neighborly kindness of others.
That's right. And I feel like that's something that's so amazing that when we see terrible things like, the earthquakes or these hurricanes that have affected our nation, is that you really see the kindness of the human spirit. You see people stepping forward.
Right.
Right?
Right.
With no self-interest, but really giving and being selfless and providing service.
Yeah. That's everyone who listens knows what the Raymond Hall Show is about. It's about service, and service has a different kind of banner. We says that service has a different conversation. We can talk all day long, but unless we put some service with it, we really are just doing that, just talking.
That's right.
And what has made this nation unique is that when you look back in times past, irrespective of where people found themselves, they put service in, and we will all benefit. I realized something very early on. We talk about our jobs or our careers. That's for us and our family. But most often our service is for those people we don't even know. So you just do the best you can. And so that was what's remarkable about the fires earlier this month when those people lost everything, their homes and their businesses.
That's right.
You saw people helping each other and identifying each other. And the same thing with this heat here in Southern California.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's just people helping each other. So you all have quite a task in planning on how to provide services when things get extreme and you have emergencies. Okay, so now talk to us about that. When emergency preparedness is doing what that implies, you're preparing for an emergency. What are the first things that you put on the table? These are the things that we need to do. Do we need to identify people first, or identify the what infrastructure has failed? What are some of the first steps in preparing for emergencies?
I feel like the first thing is that you really have to be knowledgeable about what are your local threats and hazards.
Okay.
And there's a great website that I want to share with you all. Actually, it's California Office of Emergency Services.
Okay.
So this is a state office, and they have the My Hazards page. And if you just Google Cal OES My Hazards, you'll bump into it, and it's a mapping app. It has not a mapping app, it's a mapping website.
Okay.
It has a section where you can type in your address, you can type in your home address, where you work, your children's school, and it'll show you the local nearby fault lines. It'll show you if there's any wildfire zones. It'll show you
Say
tsunami.
That one more. Give us that webpage one more time, because that's pretty important.
Yes.
Okay.
If you just Google Cal OES My Hazards.
Cal OES My Hazards.
My Hazards.
Okay.
Free. It's a state website. It's a statewide program, and it has a mapping tool.
Okay.
And you can see what's around you. Liquefaction areas. So some of you may be living in a liquefaction area and you don't even know it.
Okay.
And if that term is new to you, what liquefaction is, it's essentially the soil has a different type of property. The sediment there acts a little bit more jello-like. And so shaking after during an earthquake may feel more, you'll feel it more, and there can be more damage to properties or buildings in a liquefaction zone.
I think I felt it in Santa Clarita, because it was the most I've never felt before then the earth move up and down and sideways at the same time. It was almost as if it was liquid.
That's right.
Just
That's right. And that was something that we saw also in Mexico with the Mexican earthquake that just happened in the city of Mexico in September.
Okay.
That's a big liquefaction area. That used to be, it was a bowl, and it used to be under a wet area. It used to be a lake, and they built the city there. It's below sea level.
Wow.
And so that's why their shaking is so violent. And we wouldn't have anything near like that here.
Okay.
But it's kind of unique. So anyways, it's great to know from a planning perspective, what are the local hazards? What is it that we have to plan ahead for?
Okay.
And it's really important for us, too, as me being a government representative at the county level, for us to really partner with county departments that have access to information about who are the vulnerable communities out there, who are vulnerable, for example, seniors.
Right.
There's a number of seniors that receive free assistance programs like Meals on Wheels.
Exactly.
I heard you mention about individuals that are sedentary. They can't get up or leave their home. And so we definitely have a duty to make sure that we're paying attention to this population, that we're doing outreach, and that we are providing materials and messages that reach them as well.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Board of Supervisors and Director Reeb, you and Lauren. I think it was Laura or Lauren, someone that...
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Angie.
Angie,
Yeah.
okay. Whew, I'm having a hard time with names today. And so please don't let me do this one wrong. And Director Cynthia Banks for Community and Senior Services and Workforce Development. One of the people that worked with me closely to make this happen also was Mr. Guillermo Medina.
Oh, wonderful.
Who works in that department, Community and Senior Services and Workforce Development. So a big kudos to all of you all, and thank you for all of the community voices that said that they wanted to hear something about emergency preparedness. We have such, like you said, 15 languages. We have such a diverse community.
Yes.
And one of our challenges is communicating between each other during a emergency preparedness, because let's say that you find yourself downtown. And you're in a certain area when you have this emergency. Well, now communication barriers are not from a telephone. It's just one-on-one. How do I communicate with the person that I'm in close proximity to? So I think that the job that you all do is a challenging job, and you do it very well.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
To go out into the community, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here in Los Angeles County. I'm saying because as I travel throughout the nation, you see some areas of the country do things a little bit better, just truthfully, a little bit better than others. I don't know whether it's a budget issue or other kind of issues, but you sometimes when you're here in California, and especially Southern California,
yes,
you go places, and it's like we're almost in where are they? Because we don't do that. I went to one place, and they were still smoking.
Oh, wow.
In a building. And they said, well, we got the smoking section over there. And I was about to say, how are these people going to say, Raymond, you're not in California.
It's not us, right?
Yeah, and I'm going, oh, my goodness. Okay, so you all do a fantastic job in keeping us safe, keeping us healthy, keeping us informed, keeping us aware. So big kudos to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we definitely need the help, because something that you bring up is that it's true. Something, the hallmark of Los Angeles, I would say, as a county, is our diversity.
Right.
And there's a beauty in that diversity.
Right.
But that also means that when we're trying to get important public messages out there, like be ready for a disaster, because it's going to come.
Right, it is.
It'll come someday.
Right.
We need help, because a one-size-fits-all message isn't effective. You really have to tailor messages according to who you're trying to reach.
Right.
And so we need ambassadors. We need people to get involved.
That's true.
We need people to help spread the word. So if you're interested in joining that kind of a movement, or if this call touches your heart, there's a number of ways to get involved.
Okay.
For example, American Red Cross The American Red Cross is always looking for volunteers.
Right.
They need people to help staff their shelters. They need bilingual folks. They need diversity in those shelters as shelter workers. And so that's a wonderful opportunity to give of time and to volunteer and to learn more about disaster readiness and response.
Right.
And also another great resource I want to plug before my time is up. It's called CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT.
Right.
That is offered by your local fire department or your local law enforcement. All you have to do is go to your local station and say, I'm interested in being CERT trained. It's a wonderful, free training. You have to have a group of people. Usually they want at least a group of 10 to 15 people. 21 hours, so it's a commitment.
Okay.
But they teach you everything. You
Now,
will
is
learn.
that's not in one setting?
Not in one setting. It's usually over a few days.
Okay.
Sometimes they offer them on the weekends or they'll do them during the evenings.
Okay.
Right? Because people are working. But they will teach you with CERT. They teach you everything in terms of how to help someone, how to help your neighbor, how to do hands-only CPR, how to triage, how to create tourniquets, how to put out a fire, how to use a fire extinguisher. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's hands-on.
Now,
it's wonderful.
Everyone should be getting this information because you never know. You may learn something that may help a loved one in time of an emergency.
That's right.
You may help someone that's a stranger or someone else. So everyone should get that information. So we're going to ask you to repeat that one more time.
Sure.
All of you people, get your pens, get your pencils. I know you can stream us. You can follow us on Facebook, and you can find us on Instagram and Twitter and SoundCloud. You can follow us on those things. But get your pen so you can pass the thing. I'm an old school kind of guy in some places. Get your pen so you can pass it on. And that information to CERT.
CERT. That's right. Community Emergency Response Team.
Okay.
Offered by your local fire or law enforcement agency.
And they're okay. All right. So we'll do that now. We can. It's up to you if you want to hang around a little bit. You got more information to tell us because we'd love to have it. I believe in however we can help the community to survive doing these things would be really, really good. And most of the times, if we will just take care of ourselves and our neighbor, don't worry about somebody way down the street. Somebody's going to take care of that person. But if we're equipped to take care of ourselves and our neighbor, or if we're in an apartment building, a large apartment building where it's a number of people on our floor, just maybe kind of take care of our floor or something, we would be okay. It was interesting to me that when I was in the earthquake in Santa Clarita, actually in Newhall, it happened early Sunday morning.
That's right.
Okay.
Like
it was
4 a.m.
4 a.m., like early Sunday morning, okay. And I must admit, because of the earthquake, I got to know my neighbors, and my neighbors got to know me.
Oh, yes.
It was the most amazing thing. We laughed because we found ourselves sleeping in each other's cars because didn't nobody want to go into the house. So we all in just strangers' cars.
Yes.
And it was a moment of emergency, but it was a moment of camaraderie.
That's right.
So it was a lot of good that came out of that. So I'm saying to you, get prepared, be prepared, and listen to what Helen is telling us. Call your supervisors, call Helen's office if you think that there's something that we need more. You know, they don't know everything. They're depending on the community to say it. So what else can you tell us about we need to know about emergencies?
Well, I would say something that's really relevant right now is we've just been hit time and time again with these heat waves.
Yes.
I mean, it's been so hot outside.
100 and something degrees in Southern California.
At the end of October.
Yes.
And it'll only continue to get hotter. I was just at a seminar about 2 weeks ago, and there was a leading scientist from the National Weather Service.
Okay.
He's saying it's going to get hotter. It's going to keep on there's a global heating trend, so don't expect it to get cooler. I mean, in the years to come, we will continue to have these long, hot summers.
Okay.
So cooling centers are a really important resource.
Okay.
If you're listening to the radio show and you don't have air conditioning in your home, I don't have air in my house, and you're uncomfortable and it's, you need somewhere to cool down, the county does have cooling centers.
Okay.
And you can find a list of them, and they're typically libraries, community centers, gymnasiums, places that are free of charge. They are comfortable. There's cool air there available. They're air conditioned. Come on in, and you can find the list by going to that same website, the lacounty.gov/emergency, and you click on the tile that says cooling centers. We update it as often as we need to, and you can see per community where these locations are at, so you and your family can go.
That sounds like a really informative website, and I want everybody to remember, because it's one thing to struggle when you don't have access. It's a whole different thing to struggle when you do have access. And
That's right.
Can get up and do something else. And not only that, we have to consider the babies when we're dealing with this heat, and we have to consider.
That's right.
Generally for me, because I take a number of medications, anti-rejection, anti-infection, and so heat has this terrible effect on me, and so I try to stay cool. It's like, oh no. Our seniors and those persons that has given a life to make things available and comfortable for the generation to come, we need to pay particular attention that we can do what we can for them. So if you get information that you know will help your neighbor, please share that information. And if you have a neighbor that is not computer savvy, giving them a web address is not helping them. Okay? If they don't have a computer, they're not computer literate, you go a step or two further, get the information, put it in a form where they can digest it, and then give it to them. So we definitely want to be of service. We don't want to just give someone something and it doesn't benefit them. So now, what information, let's say that there's, like we talked about, 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Something happens 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday.
Yes.
What do people have access to?
They're going to want to know what just happened. How bad was it? Where did it occur? Is it going to happen again? And what do I need to do next? So that's where the third step of readiness really is important. Stay informed. You have to know where you're going to be getting valid information, because something that we see time and time again is that rumors start to fly, right? On social media. Sometimes, you hear things, but they're not true. So
I want to say fake news so bad.
I didn't say it. So you really have to tune in to trusted sources to listen and hear information about what has just happened and what to expect next. And this is where government, first responders like fire, like law enforcement, sheriff, that they're going to step forward, and they're going to be some of the first spokespeople that you see either on TV or being interviewed on the radio. And I love this ESG. I can't stop talking about this particular resource, because it even has towards the back of the manual, it tells you on page 44 some fantastic radio broadcast stations that are news related, at least locally here for LA County, where you can tune in and listen. Because again, think about if electrical systems are down, no power, then you're going to have to use that radio that's battery operated to get your best information. So having handy a local list, or knowing 1 or 2 news radio sources where you can tune in and find out what's happening and what to do next. That's going to be really important.
I won't call the name here on the station. Well, I guess I would, because it's one that I've listened to for years, and it's a trusted source. I mean, if we get to the point where they'll put us out of business or did our market, I guess we're okay. But I listen to KNX quite often when it comes to news and everything.
That's right. And they're listed on here. And there's a number of them.
On that list, So, matter of fact, on the list, let me just give you a few here. There's KFI, 640 AM, KNX, 1070, KFWB at 980, K-Rock at 106.7, KHTS at 1220 AM, and KRLA at 870 AM, KCBS is 93.1 FM, KABC is 970 AM, and KAVL at 610 AM. That's out in the Antelope Valley. So those are some of the ones that you can listen to, and 24 hours of the day, no matter what
right.
things that happen, they're going to be able to talk about things.
That's right.
Okay. Now, talk to us about when services do become available in the area that you're in. Now what?
So, one of the county's main functions when there's a big, large-scale disaster emergency is to prioritize resources.
Okay.
So, we have to create what we call, our technical term is, we have to create a common operating picture. Mm-hmm. So imagine this. Let's say a big earthquake has hit. Mm-hmm. First thing is we need to know, where did it hit? Where's the damage? Where are the casualties? Where are the most amount of people needing help? Okay. And that's what's going to be prioritized. Okay. And so the technical term is then we activate what we call an emergency operations center for the county, and that's where I work. Okay. And so that's going to be like a brain of sorts. It's a hub of where we're gathering intelligence from the field, right? We have different first responders telling us this is happening in this part of the city, this is happening in this other part of the county. So we're gathering the intelligence, and then there's going to be decisions made about where to prioritize resources, where to send first responders so that you can help the most people that need help.
Okay. Well, now we're down to 4.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the 4th?
The 4th one was about getting involved.
Yes.
About that whole, step up. We join you to be part of this movement, to be part of this, support. We need the help to really talk about getting ready and really not using fear. That's something that we have seen in the research, that trying to scare people into getting ready for a large-scale disaster emergency doesn't work. It doesn't work. What happens is that people get paralyzed. Or they sort of throw up their hands and say, well, you know what, whatever God wants, it's let His will be done. But there is an active part, there's an active component
that we can play
about, putting forth effort is definitely still worthwhile. You got to get ready.
I believe that. I believe that God's will be done, but not everything. God is not going to tell you to sit there and watch the roof fall on you.
That's right.
Okay, He's going to say to you to get up and move and get out of the way. It's important to participate, because one of the things that I've found, when I do my very best, I don't have any apprehension about I woulda, if I shoulda.
That's right.
I did my best when I could, and that's as much as that I can do. So when things happen, like I said, we helped each other, and we slept in each other's cars, and we looked out for each other. And for days, I don't think they really, as far as coming into the houses, there was more things that needed to be done. So we were okay. We were fine. And I think the people that came in and tagged the houses, they didn't show up until days later. The people that came in and looked to see if everybody was out of the houses came. But as far as doing the inspections, they came later. So do your part. You may not be an inspector, but you may be someone that water was an issue for us.
Nice.
Okay.
Yes.
And it was interesting, because you'd be surprised what you can do with a bucket.
Yes.
From the swimming pool.
That's right.
That's right. Okay. Now you all figure it out. If you need to use the bathroom, you do have water to flush the toilet. We found that a bucket from the swimming pool just worked just fine. So, but you need to help each other in order to get those kind of things done. Okay. Now, what about things like if you have an emergency and you see things like power lines or gas situations, you smell gas. What do you do?
Those are good points. So for the gas, if you smell gas, this is where being ready beforehand, knowing where the gas valve is, knowing how to turn off your gas is really important. Because if you smell the gas, turn it off. Because something that affects and creates more catastrophe after, let's say, like an earthquake. I always tell folks when I'm doing these talks, the earthquake isn't what kills you. It's things falling on you that typically will hurt or harm an individual.
Yes.
And also it's fires after the earthquake, because most of our local construction here is made out of wood.
Yes.
And so shaking disrupts, gas lines. So all you need is a little spark, and that wood is going to catch fire. And that's what happened in that big fire that affected, the big earthquake that affected San Francisco at the turn of the century, early 1900s.
Yes.
It was fires that devastated the city.
Yes.
So know how to turn off your gas. But I say that with a little asterisk, meaning that's if you smell the gas. Don't automatically turn off the gas after an earthquake, because if it really is a large-scale event, then it's going to take you a long time for someone to come, a professional to come turn on the gas. So if you smell the gas, definitely turn it off and know how to do so beforehand. And the other question was about power lines.
Yes, if you see the power lines, I've heard, I really thought they were joking, but they said that they weren't. Their thing was, well, if it's down, it's already dead. There's no electricity in it.
Not necessarily.
And I said that is the wrong way to think about something.
That you're absolutely right about that. Do not touch it. Never a good idea to touch a downed power line. Avoid those at all costs.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, that's why we tell folks, don't run out of your home if there is an earthquake, for example. Stay in, and instead we tell people to drop, cover, and hold. Or if you can't drop, you have a disability or you have bad knees like myself, then you know what? Make sure that you cover and hold and get against a wall or a safe space where you don't have something that's going to hit your head.
Right. We're going to pause for a second to recognize one of our community supporters, Clear Path with Dr. Burnell Payne. They have that cardiac dance exercise where it works out your heart and everything, and you do dancing at the same time. And they give those community classes for CPR. So they're doing good things in the community. Just go to the web and look up Clear Path, and you'll be able to get the information that you need there. Veterans Day is coming up, so there's all kind of veterans events that's coming on. Healthy African American Families is located in Leimert Park area of the city of Los Angeles, and they're having a veterans event on November the 4th. Veterans Day is on Saturday, so you see a lot of people going to be doing veterans events on the 10th, which is that Friday. Right. Yes. And check with your VA. A lot of times they have those lists where restaurants will be providing free food for veterans. Make sure you got your veterans ID card or something so they'll know you're a veteran. So we want to thank, again, Helen. Helen, so now tell us, if someone wanted you to come out and talk to them about what you do and how to get involved, how would they contact you?
I would love that. Go ahead and you can either email or call. I'll give you the general telephone line for where I work, which is the Office of Emergency Management. That number is 323-980 2260.
Okay.
And you can say that you're interested in having someone come talk to your community group about disaster preparedness. And if we can't do it ourselves, we will hook you up and connect you with someone in your local city that can help you, and we'll take care of you.
Okay. All right. And I want everyone to pay attention because, as we know, it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's just when.
That's right.
And we want everyone to be safe, and we want everyone to be prepared. The County of Los Angeles is a big county. As we talked about, we're a very diverse county, and they do a tremendous job. When we have emergencies, it's a little too late then to kind of think about, what did she say? we need to remember what she said, and we need to, that emergency kit, start working on the kit now. Put that backpack or the fish tackling box. Back in the day, they used to get a little tackling, a little arch box.
Oh, yes.
But, we found it has grown now. We need a few more things, so the backpack is perfect. So start working on that now. Start working on that point person for the contact person.
That's right.
Those kind of things. And start working on finding out how to order this free publication. Now, tell us about the publication again.
So the Emergency Survival Guide, which is free, available in 15 languages.
Okay.
You can go to lacounty.gov/emergency and click on the tile that shows the Emergency Survival Guide. And there's another one that I also brought, another publication that's called Stay Safe, Stay in Control. It looks like this.
Okay.
And this is a great assessment tool, and it's designed specifically for people that have different abilities.
Okay.
People, for example, that have some sort of vision impairment or hard of hearing, have mobility issues or use assisted devices. And it really provides you with very useful checklists, and it's a way to think about what are the needs that particular person, or if it's you, what is it that you're going to need, and what is it that you need to plan ahead for? Okay.
Now, give us the web addresses that you have for contacting or ordering the material.
Wonderful. It's lacounty.gov/emergency. That is our landing page. There's a number of tiles there. You can download, for example, the Emergency Survival Guide there. You can find information on CERT. You can find information on the cooling centers that I talked about, and a number of other emergency resources, all free, all available to you at no cost.
Okay. Now, if someone calls and they want to, and they're having an event, like they're having veterans events at different places, do you all participate in some of those events, or is it just
we do at times, but given that we have a pretty small team, what we do is, depending on where the event is at. So many times, cities, they have their own version of where I work. It's usually its own department. It's an emergency department, right? So if you don't know where that department is, or a contact, you can definitely call the phone number I gave, the 323-980-2260, and we can point you in the right connection, so you first connect with your city resource.
Right.
If you live in an unincorporated area, meaning that you're not living in a specific city, that area, your community is using county resources like sheriff and county fire, then that is definitely the county. That's where we would step in, and we would definitely be present at your community event.
So if you are in an unincorporated area and you're like one of the senior centers in one of the unincorporated areas, there could be something that possibly you could make a call to see if your senior center or your community center could come out, if it's in that area.
We will come to you, absolutely.
Yes, okay. It looks like time just goes by so fast sometimes when the information starts flowing. And you're so kind, and talk about things. I sometimes I'll feel like when it's over, I missed something. I should have asked this, or I should have asked that. Is it anything that we haven't talked about that maybe we should mention?
Well, I would say, first I want to say thank you. I don't think I've thanked you yet for the opportunity to come on the show and to talk about one of my favorite topics. And, if there's anything that you remember from today, it's these key points. It's important to start talking about how you're going to be ready beforehand.
Right.
And make some time also to, get your supplies in a kit, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. I don't think we talked about the financial aspect of getting ready for a disaster.
Well, let's talk about it.
So many times you think you have to spend a lot of money or go to some fancy store to get together your supplies. You really don't. The one that I have at home, I told you I have a backpack by my bed and one in the car. That's all stuff I bought at my local 99-cent store or at Target. It doesn't have to break the bank. I come from a very humble background myself, my family and I. So, it's reachable. It's doable. I guess that's my closing comment to you and to people that are listening and watching, it's doable. It just takes time and effort, like anything in life.
Okay.
You know, you have to put some time and effort,
right,
and you reap what you sow. Because if you put in the time and you put in the effort, and as you mentioned, it's not if, it's when. When that disaster hits, you and your loved ones will be able to survive it and be resilient and bounce back from it.
Okay. So let's go over there for a minute. We talked about have your medication.
Right, having supplies.
Have your water. Now, food. If you're going to survive for food, what kind of foods
Great question.
you going to put away?
It has to be food that can be kept, because you're going to be storing this in your kit, in your backpack, right? So usually canned foods, right?
Okay.
Things that aren't going to spoil or go bad.
Okay.
And, you have some of your favorite foods in there. Like, for example, I really love garbanzo beans. They're a favorite staple of mine. They're not going to go bad. I have several of those cans in my backpack.
Okay.
And don't forget the non-electronic, so the manual can opener that you can crank open, because what good is it to have cans if you can't open them?
If you can't open it, okay.
That's right.
Yeah, we've all tried. Well, I'm about to tell one of those Marine Corps stories now about the screwdriver. But, okay, so food, water, shoes, socks,
flashlight,
batteries, radio,
cash.
I
didn't talk about
because
the
your
cash.
credit card is not going to work. Okay,
That's right. In cash and in small denominations, so small bills, not just big bills, because what happens, and this is what we saw in Puerto Rico, folks can't make change. The store merchants can't make change. Some people are paying $20 for, a small case of water.
Right.
That should cost $3.50.
Yeah.
So, and my last point is having your important documents also ready to go and grab.
Very important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely very important.
Your passport, if you have a green card or a visa, your birth certificate, a title of the house or a property, all that should be ready to go in some kind of a bag that you can quickly grab when you're evacuating.
Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, young people, we are, I hope we've answered your questions. This was a request from our audience, and we hope that we have addressed all of the issues that you have. We've had a fantastic guest, and we are so thankful that she came in and talked to us about it. Again, we want to thank everybody for making this happen, you and all of the people that work for the county, the supervisors, and everyone else. This is the Raymond Hall Show, and this is all about service. We have all of these electronic things that help us. I remember when you used to have to remember a telephone number.
Yes.
You don't now. You just, it's in your phone, okay? So we have all of these technical advances. One of the reasons for the show is that while waiting for the transplant, I met so many wonderful people that had done so many things for the nation, served nationally in service, and then came back and became Sunday school teachers or helped build parks or schools. People continue to give service. Now, because they gave service, it gives us opportunity to be of service. And that's what we've been talking about here today. We've been talking about the service that you can give in an emergency situation. So we have had someone to come in and talk to us about things that we all need to pay attention to. And it would be most unfortunate if you didn't pay attention and you could have made a difference. So we are so thankful again for Helen, and we are going to ask her to come again.
Wonderful. I'd love to.
All right. And we are going to ask you all to make sure that you continue to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all of the things that the social media platform. As you can see, I'm not the most gifted person in remembering all of those things, but people get the message. We're out there. Any last words?
I think we've covered it. That's pretty much it on my end. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, well, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to say thank you. That's just about all that we have. Don't forget to remember Veterans Day. and truly thank someone for the service. Don't just say thank you for your service. Look, we all recognize what just happened. We lost 4 people. Matter of fact, we've lost any number of people who've been serving in foreign places in defense of this nation. That's very important. They're giving service so that we will be at liberty to do the things that we do here in this nation. So when Veterans Day comes, don't just say it as a cliche, thank you for your service. Say it and extend a hearty thank you to someone, thanking them for their service, whether they're in active service or whether they are now a veteran having served. Just recognize that person did the best that they could in service and defense to the nation. We're coming up on that time of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of the festivities that go along with it. So just know that it's the service of others that have allowed us to be able to enjoy the things that we enjoy here in the nation. Again, don't forget Clear Path and Dr. Barnell Payne and all of the doctors that's a part of that group. Healthy African American Families, they're going to be having their event on April the 4th. Oh, and tomorrow, don't forget the lay witness night. Dr. Jackie DuPont Walker has talked to us several times, and they're going to be talking about the public school system and education. Get involved. It's going to be at the Hilton LAX. That's just about all the time that we have. We want to say thank you for all of the people that made this show possible. We want to especially thank Morris Media Studios and Felicia and Mr. Johnny Morris for all of the things that they do. He's not only my friend, but a mentor, and we're looking forward to having him on the show. Upcoming, we had Dr. Jones to come back from Houston. He spent 2 weeks down there helping them with their recovery. He put his life on hold for 2 weeks and went down there to help them, and I thought that was remarkable. So we want to thank everyone for making this show happen and all of the people that are giving service and who continue to do those things that give us the liberty and the opportunities to serve here in the nation. We thank you all. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you this time next week here on the Raymond Hall Show. And Helen, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.